Captain, incoming message.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind. Groovy.
Hi-ho. This is me, Kermit the Frog.
Hello there.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not a great plan.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hey there, we're those Sci-Fi guys, and this is at those Sci-Fi guys show. Just two working dudes, different lives, different jobs, but a whole lot of love for science fiction and the fun that comes with. We are your hosts. I am P.S. McKay, and T-minus 44 days until this show goes off the air.
And I'm DT Cavman, and we're just changing formats.
But the problem is we don't adapt very quickly, so we're not sure if that's going to happen in time in 44 days.
We'll figure it out. Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Well, a very good Army mantra, and I appreciate that aspect of our military, so thank you. Yeah, man. So just to let our audience in on the joke, we use Skype. We're old men, but it's also like the freest and most lackadaisical system to be able to perform what we need it to perform. So that's the funny part.
Right. The not so funny part is that Skype apparently is going away.
On May 3rd. May 3rd. So on Monday, I activated Skype. And by the way, this was announced apparently last November. I did not know this. So neither did DT. So I opened Skype on Monday this week, and I see this big blue banner that said, notifying you that Skype will be unavailable come May. You'll be able to transfer all of your contacts and chats to Teams at a given date. I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem. When we started this podcast, what did we try this on first? Teams. We tried it on Teams. And the problem was there's no recording option for whatever version of Teams that I have. I don't know why. I subscribe to the Microsoft 365 family package, which is apparently the highest private package that you can have without being commercial. Don't know what's going on with that. But I just tried working with Teams the other day with my brother because I was in a panic right before we recorded the last episode.
Mildly so. He was not in good St. Patrick's Day cheer.
I was not. No, I was flipping out. I needed an answer to our problem right away. Because that's what I do. Not saying it's healthy. I'm just saying that's what I do. So, so yeah, there we are, everybody. So we'll be using our current format for as long as we can while we try to figure out an alternative, but
which will happen. We will figure out the alternative.
I mean, man, I don't want to subscribe to shit. Like,
I don't want
Riverside
to subscribe
is
to
really
shit
good.
either. If we're gonna subscribe to something good.
I mean,
we're subscribing to shit.
We're gonna have to if we want, we're going to have to start a Patreon or something, but we need to create a product that people want to subscribe to. So,
well, I mean, we do. They do like us.
We're kind of screwed in that regard, apparently. So
we have a solid product. We've been getting good ratings.
We've got good ratings. The subscription.
We even started getting
numbers
comments.
Have gone up.
We've received comments in our live feed when stuff has gone live.
Yes. So, that being said, we'll see, but that's our plight for the next 44 days, everybody. So mark your calendars. It's going to be a fun ride.
We'll have it figured out by then, guys.
Yeah, well, little known fact, we used Skype when we were just audio. We used Skype to record the whole video because I have video records of every single podcast that we have done, but we didn't really start doing video and audio until last year. Like we did a couple experiments before that, but like with Spider-Man No Way Home, we did that in December 2021, the first year we started.
It does whatever a spider can.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just, whew, boy, existential crisis is literally here. So here we are, everybody.
We are up to 85 videos on YouTube, for the record.
Yeah. Most of that's from last year.
Most of them, yes.
Yeah. That was when we started really regularly recording. Well, throwing it up there, because I went to UDT and I said, I think we need to start doing video. And you were like, well, I wanted to do video. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I didn't want to put the time in. Now I want to put the time in. So, because now I figured out that I could start rendering the video and walk away from the computer. So, you can do that. And then when you start uploading, you can also walk away from the computer. So, didn't know you could do that at the time, but now I do know. So,
and now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Oh, I don't have that. I don't have the drop ready. Oh,
well, that's disappointing. But
you didn't warn me.
You don't need a drop. I have these things on memory replay.
Oh, wait. I don't think I have Yo Joe.
Yo Joe.
Oh, wait. Here we go. And it's loading.
Yes.
Because it's on it's on the far side of the hard drive. So
loading.
Okay. Jesus Christ.
Buffering.
See, another example of why I might need to get a new computer, because the battery is not working. So there's that. Holy crap.
Shall we dive into it? Because we're just killing time right now.
Dive into it?
Now
yes.
I know.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe!
Yeah. That took 5 minutes to load. What the frack? So
welcome to 1998.
Yeah. Holy crow. Yeah, like that scene in Captain Marvel where the Krill and Fury and the Skrulls, yes. The Skrulls and Fury and Captain Marvel are sitting there in front of the Windows 95 computer, and it's like, what's taking so long? And Fury goes, it's loading. From that old graphic. That's a good time. All right, DT. So, do you want me to do the intro, or would you like to?
By all means,
your existential hell. So, yes. I came up with this idea.
Physical hell.
It did for you. I know. So I came up with this idea about a week and a half ago. I said, hey, you know what I think is a good idea? I think let's review that fictional documentary, a fictumentary or something, whatever they call it, about how
Docufiction, I believe.
Docufiction. Yeah, that's what it is. A docufiction on Animal Planet that they aired back in 2011 that implied that mermaids were real. And because I came across it, and I remember seeing some people posting about how, wow, it looks like mermaids are real, like on Twitter at the time and Facebook and whatnot. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this? And I figured it out, and I looked at it. I'm like, okay, well, when's the next airing? So I figured that out. I recorded that, and I watched it along, knowing that this was a docufiction, like a documentary that is fictional with a fictional story based off of real scientific facts. Okay, science fiction, you might say. So, literally, it's science fiction. They just say docu instead of science. So,
That's not how they portrayed it in the
not
media.
in the slightest. So, I thought it would be a good idea to drill down on this first film in a series of several other docufiction films that Animal Planet and Discovery decided would be a good idea to air. And DT's got some thoughts, let's to put it mildly.
Yes. Thoughts.
Last time, I would say the last time I saw you this incensed was when someone in the neighborhood kicked your puppy, but you never had a puppy, so.
Well, remember, like, as soon as we started podcasting, the Biden administration completely bungled the Afghanistan withdrawal, and you had all.
Yeah, that's a good callback. Yeah, yeah, that was literally our second episode.
Close.
It was very close to that. Okay, so there are parts of this that I want to do. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the science, because there's a lot of it. I want to focus on the folklore that's based on it. And then I want to talk about the film as it is in structure, acting, and storyline. And then I want to talk about the repercussions of it. Fair?
Ugh. I may rage barf at some point.
That's okay. That's okay. Just not on your screen. Okay? Because, by the way, we also have really broke-ass computers right now. So if one of them even goes down, again, sayonara, everybody.
Mother.
Yep.
Of pearl.
All right, so I wanted to start this off. Let's just air the teaser trailer for this.
Please don't.
Oh, come on. We need to.
No,
we need to. We need to. You know we need to.
God damn it.
I know.
So angry.
I know. But come on. Suck it up. Let's go. We're going to do it.
You're not my drill sergeant. You don't get to tell me to suck it up.
All right, what can I tell you that's an equivalent that a drill sergeant wouldn't do?
Please.
Please. Please, sir. Kids running on a beach with all the video quality of Potato. Bunch of whales washed up on the beach. Everyone. And there's a zoom in. See a hand.
Clearly fake.
Okay.
So
Yes,
clearly fake.
They covered it up with, you know, the video quality of Potato, and the storyline behind that is two kids are walking on a beach with a bunch of beached up whales, and this is 2004, so cell phones were slowly beginning
It is
to
a
get
mass
ability.
stranding.
Thank you.
That's what they're dealing with, is mass strandings.
Thank you. Everyone got the idea from what I just said.
No, there's a
But-
difference between washed up and strandings. Washed up can, denote dead whale fall, as opposed to live whales that require rescue. It is a scientific distinction they make a lot in this early part of the documentary.
Okay.
You said we're going to talk about the science.
You're right. I'm biting my tongue. Give me a second while I quell my rage. There we go. Okay, now. So anyway, guys, the video is quality potato right now because they explain it that way because it's done on a flip phone from 2004. Right at the beginning.
The flip phone I had in 2004 couldn't have taken a video this clear.
There were phones that could do this, trust me. I was very well aware. My roommate was a computer engineering science major. He was aware of said technology. He showed me examples of it. It was possible in 2004. The steady camness of it, not so much. Like being able to keep it steady without the jiggling effect. But that's theatrics.
And the fact that a couple of teenagers had this phone?
Well, the teenagers, it would have been much jigglier with the technology at the time. I'm just talking about for the purposes of the show. That being said, let's see. Right there. Look at that. Right there. That's good stuff. All CGI. I'm going to take it off that screen now. But I thought it was a good story idea to say this is 2004, back when cell phones weren't known to have the ability to record video, which is how they got that video. So it wasn't checked out. That comes up later in the whole documentary. So this whole documentary or docufiction, DT, would you like to summarize real fast or?
No. I will be unfortunately too prone to going off on tangents.
I'm going to do a 1,000-yard workup real fast. There's this science team from NOAA that is dealing. NOAA, yes.
Yeah.
When you said NOAA, I heard no, so that's why I stopped.
NOAA, yes. NOAA investigating whale strandings.
I say NOAA, NOAA because I don't like calling it NOAA, but it technically is NOAA. You're absolutely correct. So anyway, there's a team of 3 people, 3 scientists, Rebecca and Steven, and the one scientist that they don't interview, who is like the lead, Dr. McCormick. Oh, Paul. It's not Steven. It's Paul. And Paul is the one who's the biggest narrator of it all. They all investigate this mass stranding in Washington. Or is it Seattle? No, I'm sorry. Oregon.
Washington State. They actually cover a series. They're talking about, they're talking. What it starts this is that there's.
I knew I would like
a series of mass strandings along the coasts, and Noah's investigating whether there seems to be weird things about these strandings, and they seem to be frequent. And the Navy also is very interested in these, and so they
2 governmental entities working next to each other.
But not with each
other. And the NOAA people notice that the Navy has a bunch of hazmat suits on, and
very secretive, can't go over there.
Has a bunch of stuff all like strung out, so like blocked off, marked off, so that no one else can go there or should go there. And in the meantime, the NOAA people take samples from the whales that were killed. And they do it in order to analyze the tissue. They assume that they all suffer from organ failure from suffocating from under their weight while being on the beach. But under analysis, they realized they didn't suffocate; they were pulverized. And
now they're investigating the Navy for use of a sonic weapon.
Right.
Like a sonar weapon.
They say a sonar weapon, But in reality, and we're going to talk about the science about this in a moment, but there is no real sonar weapon that would be of use underwater against other humans. Which actually implies another thing that they did not explore in this docufiction. But that being said, so they're thinking that the Navy is being irresponsible with their sonar technology, right? Which, in reality, this is true. This has happened. Sonar
Yes.
technology and sonar usage, especially in large, loud instances, has caused confusion among whale pods and caused mass strandings.
Yes.
And there have been many incidences where it's happened and the Navy has denied, oh, no, we didn't do that. And then later they've come clean on it. Like, oh, yeah, we did have some exercises near that area and whatnot. But we thought it was all clear. We did we did a sweep of the ocean and nothing was there. So we thought it was okay to do. So, and then they come across, they notice that it looks like the Navy puts a body into a bag and carries the bag away, and they're very confused about that. Piques their interest, and then they talk about the bloop. And the bloop is a real event that happened in 1997 that NOAA heard on its what do they call them? The microphones under the water.
Yeah, like I can't remember. Yeah, but they're basically oceanic microphones at various depths that listen for, listen to the sounds of the ocean and whatnot.
And the ocean is very sonic. So in 1997, they heard a very loud thing, and that was real. That really happened. No one had any idea what it could have been, but there was a lot of conspiracy leading up to it, being that it could have been a very loud animal that was previously undiscovered. Because who knows what's in the dark depths of the ocean, because there's only 5% of the ocean truly explored. And most of that is within 10 miles off of all the continents. Most of the continents. Not even all of them, just most. So, and that's okay, fine. Later, it had been determined, and I'm gonna spoil it now, that the bloop has been explained, that NOAA was able to put more microphones towards Antarctica, and realized that the bloop was caused by an ice quake, the breaking off of a massive glacier off of the main mass of Antarctica.
The real event.
The real event, yes. That's really what happened. That's not what is explained here. I'm putting the real science out first to show how the docufiction used it. But
or didn't.
And they were able to realize that the sounds were recreated with smaller events the closer they put in microphones to Antarctica. So they were like, oh, there are ice quakes. It was a large mass of ice it was super large that caused such a reverberation all the way up to the microphones by Chile in 1997. They're like, okay, fine, makes sense. And that's it. And we knew this by 2010. This movie was being made in 2010, and they were saying that the bloop was really the crying out of a bunch of submariner
mer people
and whales and cetaceans, basically. But they slowed it down. Marine mammals. They slowed it down, and they were able to identify several dozen other voices in this bloop. So they're like, well, there's something else out here. And somehow they come across they come across in South Africa a great white with a big spear in it, which looks like a stingray.
Well, they've been finding these spears
that look crafted.
Yes. What in sea life, like recently, in like
for
fish.
like the last several hundred years, actually.
Yes.
But in fish, like fishermen pull up these fish who are already speared with what look like manicured, spears or artificially created spears and whatnot. This is also a true thing. This really does happen. This is a phenomenon. But it's not what it looks like. They are not artificially created spears. These are bones that have been worn down or through conflict and whatnot of fighting over a carcass or something. You're going to have some issue with something getting lodged, or after erosion, or after a fight, or something like that. So the docufiction portrayed very sophisticated-looking spears, like what tridents and whatnot, or didents, and that's not what's being found in real life, which is interesting. But they used it with aplomb, right? Mm-hmm. And then they come across a situation where they actually do find remnants of a body and remnants of a skull
inside a great white that was feeding on whale carcass.
That's right. And so they're able to put together part of it, and they're able to take fragments of the skull, and they have a forensic scientist try to recreate said skull from the real fragments. And I feel like the forensic scientist took some liberties, I'm going to say.
Yes.
I didn't see much evidence of a ridge, like a mohawk ridge on top of the skull, that was shown in docufiction, but whatever. That's fine, from what she had anyway. But yeah, and so then they realized that they also found bones that would make a hand from those remnants, and they put it together, and it definitely made a hand. And the scientist Rebecca, my wife, laughed at this delivery. She goes, "It was a hand." A hand. And then cut to commercial. My wife laughed at it. She thought it was the most ludicrous. I mean, I can sympathize with the actress. I mean, what do you do with it? I think she did a good enough job doing that, but my wife laughed because it was supposed to come across as serious in a
shocking
scenario. Even. Yeah, shocking.
It's a hand.
In a scenario that it's supposed to completely change the way humanity looks at the world, right? And she did it the way she was supposed to do it. But given the context that this is all fiction, it's ludicrous. It kind of takes away from it all, And I feel like it might have hurt this actress's career, to be honest with you. Which sucks, by the way. I don't like how that would do that, but
here's the problem with watching it like 15 years or 13 years after it came out, is when you watch it and go, I've seen that guy in the background in something else.
Yeah, can you name the scene and what you saw them in?
McCormick, the guy who plays McCormick, whatever, Paul or Steve.
Oh, the
or whatever
main scientist, the guy that they never interview.
Yes.
He was in charge of the project, yeah.
Yes. He is played by a South African actor named Sean Cameron Michael. He, for more U.S.-based viewers, played a recurring role in the TV show Black Sails about the pirates of the Caribbean. Leading up to the...
Go ahead.
What?
Keep going.
Leading up to the time of Blackbeard. It was a Stars TV show. So, violent, bloody, a lot of sex. But he was one of the benefactors of the pirates in Nassau. And I'm like, this guy looks really familiar. And then it was like, why do I see him wearing a tri-corner hat? Mm-hmm. And then it kind of clicked over.
In Nassau, by the way.
Then me too. Then I Googled Or then I looked up black sails. I looked up this guy, and I'm like, yep, that's him. And then I went on this guy's IMDb, and there he is. 2011, Mermaids, the body found.
So can I give you a little bit of a disclaimer about your observation of that?
What?
We never saw the real Dr. McCormick. We only saw the actor that played Dr. McCormick in the recreations.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because the woman that played Rebecca in the recreations was a different woman than the Rebecca that was being interviewed, same as the guy that played Paul in the recreations. They literally had two different people playing Rebecca and Paul in this docufiction.
I know. It's supposed to be like these, like any sort of docudramas that are out there where they have the
you can only have like
dramatization.
You have to have union actors. So
yes.
You can't
I'm
have
aware.
non-union actors playing themselves. So
yeah, I'm aware. So, but it did take. I mean, I knew it was fake because it was debunked years ago. But I'm like, man, if I had recognized this guy back then, it would have taken me out.
Mm-hmm.
It just would have, just because. And I mean, the guy's not a huge named actor, but he's been in a bunch of things, so it's like, okay.
But he could have been an actor in this thing. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's the point. You know.
Yeah. But still, all it does is lend credence to the fact that this is hot garbage.
So moving on, long story short, they're able to. We saw the footage that we saw at the beginning of this episode, taken by the two kids. The NOAA team is able to track that family down and able to see that footage in its fullest, which is teased throughout the whole film. By the way, we see just them running up for a bit, and then we see them poke a stick at the hand. We see the hand just like do this quick movement there, like, and then he looks. The kid looks at the camera, and then it goes black, and then we hear the exactly like that, by the way. But this is the first time that we see it in its full glory, and that's when
I think glory is a strong word.
I know. That's when the team is like, okay, so we're pretty sure that these things are real now, and we need to talk about how there are mermaids out there. And Paul.
Oh no! Let's not forget the found camera footage of somebody who snuck into like a Navy research facility in Beaufort, California, in Beaufort, South Carolina, which looks like clips from like the Shape of Water.
It was before The Shape of Water came out, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's like dark. Absolutely. You see like something-ish swimming in a tank.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also they do talk to an anonymous Navy source who was part of the research group investigating these entities, and he said, yeah, we knew what the NOAA team was doing, but we didn't want to interfere because they were doing all the work we needed to do, and then we could just take it later. And, and they talk about...
They intimate later that the body found on Washington State is the thing in the tank.
Right. And that it died in 2007. Yeah, 3 years later. They tried to do all they could to keep it alive, other than, let it go. But
well, it washed up after being bludgeoned by a sonar weapon. So clearly it wasn't in the best of shape to begin with.
True.
Oh, and let's not forget the camera footage of this thing coming out of a fishing net somewhere, I think in the North Atlantic. Remember, there was that
Norwegian fishing vessel. Yeah. You have this big mass of fish being lifted up. And then you see a hand shoot out.
It comes out of the fishing net because they're trawling.
and then they drop the whole net conveniently back into the water. That wouldn't happen. There's no one, and the trawler wouldn't just drop the net because it's all mechanical. But okay. I mean, it's cute. I mean, whatever. It was a storytelling device. It's fine. I give that a pass. You're gonna hear me say a lot of passes here. That being said, all of it being announced, like the mermaid officially died in 2007, according to the Navy source. And then the NOAA team is like, okay, well, let's go out there and see if we can find a pod of whales, because their theory is they are riding with the whales symbiotically.
They hunt with the
whales,
dolphins.
They hunt with the dolphins. They ride with they migrate with the whales, and they give birth in the warm waters where the whales give birth, and then they migrate north during the winter to get food and everything. Okay, fine, all of that. So the team takes a boat out, and they put a microphone in, and they start hearing whales and whatnot, and then they add a few other vocal twinges to what you would normally hear with whales, and then it's just implied, oh, there's more than just whales out there, and they add,
and then they see little
under the
blips, under the surface.
You see the shadows under the surface of the water, and it could be implied it could be mermaids, and I'm like, that got a little easy. That was kind of easy, wasn't it? Oh, and then there were Coast Guard officials that came out and then confiscated the sound recorder and whatnot. I was irritated.
All of and the body and everything was confiscated by South African authorities before they could overnight take stuff back to the U.S.
Yeah, that's right. They were all confiscated overnight. Someone had a key to that lab, and yeah. So, and then officials came, confiscated the recording that NOAA took while on their voyage, and basically said, oh, that's the end of your investigation right there. And so NOAA's like, well, we had to move on at that point, but something's out there, and we think that they're an endangered species. They're struggling to survive, and the question is, do we really want to find them? Because if we find them and we verify them, will their chances of survival increase or decrease? And the implication was they would decrease.
So they basically they basically end this thing by saying, well, we don't want to go looking for them anymore, which is such a cop-out.
Yeah.
It is such a it runs completely against all logic for scientific discovery. And if you identify them, you could find ways to protect them.
Right. Well, that's the key,
that's what you do. That's what these people are doing, studying these whale strandings in the first place.
Exactly. So
now, running in between this mockumentary horseshit, I was
going to go into this. Yes, the recreations.
The recreation,
the documentary aspect of everything. Yes.
Where it's almost a hypothetical. What happens if humans who grow up along the shore, or early hominids,
proto-humans,
early hominids who grow up along the shoreline begin to live and hunt further and further into the water? And why are you showing me?
No, I'm sorry. There was a malfunction. So don't worry, keep going.
And then they do periodic cuts to further along the evolutionary chain. 500,000 years later, where now they're kind of living 50% of the time in the water, and then they're living in the water like seals, and then they're becoming more like dolphins, and they're learning to hunt from dolphins, and you're seeing them try to avoid megalodons, and they're becoming more and more aquatic. Yes, and they're turning more and more into manatee-ish looking mermaids.
I'm trying to pull up all the photos that I scrounged from it. So give me a second.
And here's where I would say would be excellent, right? It's a theory. I know there's the aquatic ape theory, and if you were to just show us this part, like where there's an evolutionary theory about this, like almost like if you watch a documentary on, the theories behind cryptids and the Loch Ness monster, and like how they think something could survive.
This could be a
in Loch Ness.
possibility.
Correct.
Yeah. Like note the big eyes that they talk about being evolved,
able to see better under the water.
This is a pod that's being rescued by a scout who's going to sacrifice himself from Megalodon for Megalodon, and the pod's able to get away. And it's implied that the scout is this person's husband. It's implied.
Implied, Lisa, or implode?
Both. It was both in this case, but implied. But look at the belly button. They got belly buttons still.
Gotta give them as much human-looking features as you possibly can.
It's never really explained if they can breathe underwater. I think it's more implied that they can hold their breath for an infinite amount of time, though. Like, because they have their spleen that's super enlarged. Like a lot of aquatic mammals. Which is like the scuba tank, which can store a bunch of oxygen as a reserve.
Right. And they talk about how even modern humans, the greatest free drivers, can hold their breath up to 20 minutes.
This is true.
And while that is true, and like with practice, humans can regularly hold their breath as long as like 5 minutes and such. But they're going down an evolutionary chain, which there's more validity to this, and this would have made an excellent sci-fi TV show.
Oh, I was going to imply that. We're going to go down that road in a moment. Don't. But you got a good idea there. I agree with you there. We'll talk about that in a moment.
But if you just went with this part, like, is it physiologically possible? Is it evolutionarily possible? Then you can talk about it as more of a theory, because, there's plenty of documentaries out there about scientific theory, some of which, are a little bit further down the, further away from the main line. But, you can watch things and you can go, I can see some where the science kind of interconnects with this and whatnot. But you slap it on top of this schlock faux investigation, and it just, I think it makes the other part just lose the impact of that. But I'm making a point here is like you're intersecting these pieces, right? And they do a
this is all played alongside with the Noah scenes,
right? They do intercuts and they skip down the line, and every time you come back, they're further down the evolutionary chain, all the way up to the Sea of Cortez 150 years ago.
Yeah, they go from 6.5 million years ago to when primates first went into the water to potentially evade a volcanic fallout, and then to 100 and however many years ago where Cortez was there, 400 years ago or something.
No, the Sea of Cortez is off the coast of Mexico. That's where they're talking about the.
Yeah.
Like the birthing grounds and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's true. And they show the evolutionary. So the Disney documentary style that they had by showing these mermaids was there. It would have been. I feel like it would have been more effective, like all cut together to show like the way they did with Walking with Dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. but they just showed it in there randomly as the NOAA team is investigating the possibility that these creatures exist. So it felt kind of weird. But I thought it was creative. I thought it was a neat idea how they showed it. And the other factor of that is, and this bothered me, the aquatic ape theory, I know, has been around for a while. It's not really a theory, it's more of a hypothesis, and it's been disproven in every way, shape, and form. I'm going to enter into a realm that I'm not an expert in. I just want everyone to know this. But it's come to my attention that the human genome is extremely rigid and extremely complex in comparison to a lot of our fellow mammals and a lot of our fellow phylum on this earth. Whereas mutations with humans are not as easily come about and as easily stable as with a lot of other fauna here. Okay. So the idea that a bunch of apes who are covered in hair, or I'm sorry, not apes, but primates who are covered in hair, retreat to the ocean.
Well, I mean, it is called the aquatic ape theory.
I know, but that they retreat to the ocean and eventually lose their hair, and are able to keep warm and cold waters, which implies that they temperature regulate a different way. Which all primates regulate their temperature differently in the sense that we sweat, and it's been brought up that we're the only primate that sweats as much as we do. But we're also the only primate that stands upright and is able to take advantage.
Well, they talked all about that in the early scientific pieces of this.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But they try to justify that we came from a species that was fond of the water at the time. That's where the fork went. So the species that was fond of the water, the species forked at that point, and one species went to land, the other species went to sea, or the other side went to sea, and that's where they branched off away from each other. And it was implied that because we sweat so much and we waste so much salt water, which is very valuable. Salt is very valuable to the human condition. That it means that we're supposed to be around an environment with a lot of salt water already. And that's incorrect. But it happens, like we sweat because we stand upright, and standing upright allows us to be cooled off more because we stand up higher. And our body is not as close to the ground where heat can radiate up from the ground. So other apes can perspire, but not as much as we do. Also,
sure.
So the perspiration is a thing among other primates, not just us. We just do it more. So we see this life cycle of how these mermaids live in this fictional area in conjunction alongside with the investigation by NOAA. We're already talking about the scientific aspects, so let me pull up my notes real fast. Also, it's implied that humans are the only primates that swim. It's not true. Chimps and orangutans of the ape family have been noted to swim too.
Yeah, but can they do the butterfly? No,
not yet. They haven't been taught that. Not yet. And I'm not sure if it's a physiological thing that they can't do, but it has been implied that orangutans and chimpanzees are in the Stone Age version of what we were way back when. Because they can use tools, rudimentary tools and stones and whatnot, and they can learn and they can pass it on generationally. So there's that. And swimming is an ability that can be passed on generationally. So
I know my kid's a swimmer.
The big thing about this documentary or docufiction is the humans are good adapters, okay? And the tribe in New Guinea is clear of that with being able to dilate their pupils at will. when they go underwater, and they basically just walk underwater and spear the fish that they spear as they go along. And they're able to dilate their eyes so that they can just see just as clearly as if they're looking through goggles and whatnot. The human body is a pretty amazing thing.
That's the rumor.
What was the other thing? Oh, humans can echolocate. They can.
Yet.
But the problem is our other senses, aside from our hearing, are stronger. So our sense of sight and our sense of smell, to an extent. Now, our sense of sight is much stronger than our sense of hearing. Okay, so we rely on our sense of sight more than we do our hearing. But if you get rid of our sense of sight, blind individuals have been known to be able to develop an echolocation, especially the ones that have been blinded at a younger age. It allows their body
like
to
Daredevil.
Adapt. Yeah, exactly. It allows their body to adapt. It's scientifically been shown. It works. It happens. Like they send out a click from their mouth and they're able to zone in on any obstructing objects. So
Some also let out sneezes and flatulence to find their way.
This is true.
It's the worst part of the new Daredevil show, though. I got to be honest with you.
I haven't seen the 3rd episode, so. Oh, goddamn. Are you making a joke?
Matt's snot location is really gross.
Oh, goddamn. Gross. Gross. Okay. So.
But the point actually remains generally valid, doesn't it, though?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The land to sea transition is real. We've seen it with whales. We've seen it with porpoises. We've seen it, with manatees and whatnot. So we've had mammals that have been land ridden and they're like, no, we want to go back into the water. That's fine. However,
manatees might be a closer representation because I believe they're fairly
recent on the evolutionary board
and close relatives to elephants and the like.
Very plausible. I'm not going to argue with that. I think that's very plausible. By the way, the thing I'm showing, this stone painting, is a real stone painting, allegedly. So.
My God, those giant chickens are terrifying.
Here are some problems with going back to the ocean for the primate. Like I said, the genome for the primate is exceptionally complicated and rigid. They went back 6.5 million years to make a point because humans have only been around, modern humans, as far as we know, is 200,000 years. It's now thought and conjectured that it could be 350,000 years that modern humans have been around now. Not 200,000. But think about that. We've had 350,000 years of modern humanity and only 7,000 years of civilization, maybe. Definitely 5,000 years. But that being said, it took them. So they had a society. They were able to craft tools and stuff well before modern humans ever existed, which is an interesting thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you go back in the water, you're never going to be able to get the eyesight that you had before you became a land dweller. So all life on Earth evolved from a water dweller. Okay, phylogeny. When we're when we're conceived, we're in a water environment. Okay. I'm getting too scientific for you, aren't I?
We're veering off the pathway a bit.
I'm just pointing out, like, we look more like a primordial sea dweller as an embryo, and we're literally in a water environment when we're conceived and we're born, right? And then we're born, we're out there and whatnot. But the thing is, and Neil deGrasse Tyson has said this, we're never going to have the eyesight that we had as we did when we were fish. Fish have an infinitely better eyesight than we do as land dwellers because you could just see better under the water with that adaptation. We adapted our eyes from water to air and try to adapt those eyes back to water. It's nearly impossible. You're talking about a regression. It won't work that way. So that's my point there.
So the science is flawed too. Oh, what do you know? Swing and a miss, strike 2.
I figured you would like that. I thought you would. So that was my point.
All I'm saying is platypus.
So I would say that nefariously referencing the bloop and other real scientific moments is pretty bad. But it also, and I'll say why it's bad, but I understand why they did it. They did it because if you use as many scientifically real moments to weave a story that's fictional, it feels more real. It gives credibility to the idea and gets rid of the suspension of disbelief. But what they did was they formatted it under. Go ahead.
What they did was they took a big turd, okay, and they sprinkled bits of bacon and cheese and stuff on top. No, seriously, this is generally what they did, right? They took things that people like, things you could research, like the blip and others, and they put a veneer, bloop, blip, blop, whatever.
Blip is Marvel. Bloop is Discovery.
Well, Thanos needed to half of the creators of this, but they sprinkled enough. It's smoke and mirrors. They threw enough spaghetti on this wall in hopes that we thought it would be a fucking gourmet Italian dish. All right, they thought we'd eat this. Like I said, they took enough things that you could research and go, that is something you can look up. There's clips here. Oh, that there's enough there. They polished this up to try to give us this polished turd. Okay. They threw just enough legit science and then a bunch of pseudoscience, which you talked about with the eyesight and whatnot, and then wrapped it around a horseshit story.
Well, pseudoscience.
And tried to pass it off as found footage and a conspiracy theory investigation, and it turns out it's all 100% bullshit.
I agree with almost everything you're saying. You're correct. Your use of pseudoscience, though, is, I would say, harsh, because what they really did was they just took a misinterpretation of real science. That's not pseudoscience what they did.
You also said they bungled the forensic stuff.
When
you talked about doing the head plate and the hand when they're doing.
Well, that's not pseudoscience. The forensic is real. They took real science and they fucked it up. That's what you're talking about. Pseudoscience, in my opinion, is science plus time. I'm sorry. Science is pseudoscience plus time equals science.
They fudged a lot of stuff.
They must
misinterpreted
have
a lot and
stuff.
they passed it off as legit. And that's what it was.
For entertainment purposes.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that entertaining.
Let me expound on this real fast, okay? For my next book, because my point was they took a bunch of scientific ideas and they weaved it in together to a narrative that is half entertainment, half fake science. Okay, not pseudoscience. Fake science, okay?
Fake science, fake news. This was literal fake news.
Correct. In my third book. magic exists in my universe, right? I am literally saying that gravitational theory in my third book is incorrect because physicists in real life have been unable to figure out if gravity is the overwhelming force in the universe. Why is it that all matter is going away from itself or slowing at a certain speed? Because they cannot account for enough matter in the universe for why the universe is slowing down the way it is. So all they just said is, well, there must be matter that we can't see, so we're just going to call it dark matter. It's not that they see dark matter. They just call this unknown quotient of matter dark matter. They don't know it exists at all. They're just saying, well, it must be there because that would make our model fit. And my book argues, well, it probably is really electric theory, electricity, electrical universe, and the universe is bound by a plasma based off of electric bonds rather than gravity. Now, okay, I'm not going to go much further than that, other than that is a theory. It's not accepted. I'm not saying it's real, but I'm using it in my book. And my book is not a scientific paper, but it's fun to use.
Right. You can do that when you create your own world.
Exactly. And that's how I used electric theory. Electric theory allows for magic. The
crime of this is that they tried to pass it off as real.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
And they also
put it on Animal Planet and Discovery. They didn't have proper disclaimers out there.
Not until the end.
Exactly. I didn't even see.
Airing.
Yeah, I didn't even see on the recording I watched.
There was no credits. There were no credits, so you can't judge that. You can't judge that rip.
Yeah, you can. If it's not on there, it's like Tommy Boy said.
It's a pirate. We watched a pirate. We watched a pirate. So you can't judge a pirated copy based off of the creator. You can only judge the original cut from the
they didn't put it out there. You have to put this up front. Okay?
I agree. I'm not arguing.
It is blatant false advertising. They didn't put it out in any of the advertising.
Yeah.
They sold it as truth and it was false. They did it the next year with their sequel, and they doubled down by, in the middle of Shark Week, making a huge deal throughout all of Shark Week about the Megalodon. They built a reconstruction of a giant Megalodon with working jaws, and they were crushing small, like they were trying to crush a small car. Some junker car with this gigantic Megalodon jaw. This was all on Shark Week. And sure, we were expecting to get like digital recreations of Megalodons and like a documentary study of like teeth and what they think it's like when you watch the ones about dinosaurs or woolly mammoths or something. But they had one that they basically stated was to prove that there was, or to demonstrate that there was proof that the Megalodon is probably still alive, where they had historical pictures, video clips, just like this mermaid thing, where the fucking Meg is supposed to still be alive, where they're supposed to have incontrovertible truth that, or at least enough to make you go, that's way bigger than a great white shark. You know that's not a fucking whale shark. What the fuck is that? Okay. And only in the closing credits did they go, this is a dramatization. This is like a mock dramatization. Okay.
And they had you up to that point.
Up to that point, and I was watching it with Mrs. Cavman, and we were pissed.
Yeah.
You know her, you know me, we're pretty educated people. You do know that I will like to switch my brain off sometime and watch a little mindless shit, but I go into it knowing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go in and you watch a goofy old TV show, some rerun, whatever. Tune off my brain a little, or just, realize I'm not going to be watching high quality TV. Like there's a time where I'm going to binge watch Jack of all trades. It's not history. It's not it's not historically accurate science and technology. It is fucking goofy. It's Bruce Campbell. It's absurd, and I love it because it is just mindless ridiculousness that I use to unwind and enjoy. I watch Shark Week because I like Shark Week. I watch Shark Week to learn. It's the learning, or it's Discovery is the name of the channel. Okay. They continued to double down on this so much that people stopped watching Shark Week. People stopped watching. Yeah. People stopped trusting Discovery Channel, Animal Planet. They both took huge hits. And then they did away with the sensationalist stuff for a while. I mean, sure, are they trying to find new angles, and then did they spend a lot of time stuffing celebrities into them? Sure, but the truth is the science is real.
The genuineness is still there.
It's still there. Is some of it like, watching the Jackass guys literally jump over sharks, and one of them actually did get bit by a shark?
Steve-O?
Yeah, that's stupid. No, it was one of the newer guys.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't
matter.
I mean,
doesn't matter.
It was stupid, but it wasn't. They didn't try to dupe you. You knew what you were getting. This was a blatant lie, and it's really angry. I never saw the Mermaids. I saw the Megalodon, and I left very angry.
Yeah.
Because Shark Week is supposed to be about educating people about sharks, about trying to dispel these myths.
I need to give you 2 more minutes on this.
But this is the same principle. And people were already pissed going into the Megalodon because of this.
Yeah, and I remember when the Megalodon came out, I boycotted watching it because I was like, this is irresponsible. You're doing this during an educational week, and it's just, it doesn't add to society.
They sold it as truth. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, after the mermaid thing, it was sold as truth. I knew it was fake. I didn't watch it, but when I saw the advertisements, I knew it was fake. I don't know what you saw or whatnot, but it could the way they would have marketed it was easily buyable. Yeah. Because at the end of this documentary, if I did not know that this was fake, the mermaid documentary, I would have said, "Oh, that's seriously plausible. Wow, they tied in enough scientific thought to be able to give me a thought going, oh, are they really among the whale pods?" Like things like that. So I agree. It is a betrayal of trust.
Yeah.
So I would like to talk about.
I was so fucking mad watching this thing last night because all of this old. No more minutes. I let you go down.
There's another aspect that I want to talk about.
Now is my time to dig my teeth in.
How much you do 17 minutes?
I could
do 5. Do 2 or 3, something, because there's an aspect I want to delve into.
I told you I was going to be brutal with this.
And I want you to be brutal. It's fine, but you can't do it for 17 minutes. So, please go.
I could go much longer.
Be as brutal as you need to be. Dig into it. I don't care. Like I dug into
And-
Brave New World. You didn't like the idea that I did that though. So please, give me all your pain.
This going in knowing that this was perpetrated on the American populace, particularly by what was supposed to be reputable, I guess you could call them stations, channels, whatever. Okay. It's infuriating because you take people who, well, the people who watch a lot of these things a lot of them do come in with a scientific curiosity, and you get faced with this. This looks like a really bad movie in the early days of the Sci-Fi network. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
the CGI in 2012 was better than this.
Well, the rip we saw was terrible.
I know that. I do understand that. Okay, so I know that it wasn't the clean copy that was out on TV, which I'm sure would have been clear. But my point remains valid. Okay. So look, if you're talking about having this level of stuff when you're doing, a theory video, got it. But this was a hoax perpetrated, and Mrs. Cavman and I were talking a little bit about this today, and she's like, they almost gave it a War of the Worlds kind of quality to it.
I was going to say, this is not the first time that entertainment has done this.
No, it is not. This also didn't lead to near emergency situations.
No, because
with
they're all in
mass
the water.
panic.
So fuck them.
But still, it really tarnished the legacy of Discovery and Animal Planet. It damn near canceled Shark Week when they did it with the Megalodon. I mean, Shark Week took a huge hit, and they tripled down on their mainstays like Air Jaws and shows that stuff they had been running for a while, and they kind of almost had they did a whole bunch of really transparent documentaries, like research shows and whatnot, to apologize for it. But
it took
the
them
problem
3
is
years though from this mermaid documentary before they did that, because everything else is already in order. Like it was all in production already.
The Megalodon was already being worked on when this
sequel
dropped.
to the Mermaid was
already in,
working on,
So I mean, it took till probably I would say 2014, 2015 for
that is correct. Yes,
them to really get back on their feet, because they really screwed the pooch, and people didn't come back, to the documentaries, to Shark Week, because they felt like they'd been taken advantage of. And when you're sitting down, because this actually, for a lot of people, is like Shark Week has been a family event with my family for years.
Yeah.
And I'm glad my kid was too little to this. I would have been furious, especially a young kid watching and go, "Oh God, mermaids are it's embarrassing. It puts you in a bad position as a parent."
Let me ask you this, okay? Genuine academic question, and then I genuinely need to go into one last aspect before we sign off. If you saw this mermaid documentary first, would you have been not swayed, but given a that's possible before you saw Megalodon?
If you cut out the fake conspiracy theory shit and just ran the whole theory
no
video,
that's modifying the situation.
I'm answering your fucking question.
No.
Okay.
No, you need to take this
Yes,
as a
I am.
stance. You need to take it as a stance.
You're not letting me answer the fucking question.
Don't get mad at me. This is literally the source material.
This is what I'm telling you. The only thing I wouldn't be pissed at is if you do like the potential split off. Everything else wrapped around it infuriates me.
Oh, but
Okay.
you're only infuriated because of the Megalodon situation.
No. The whole thing, watching it. For starters, and I get it. As a member of the military, I understand. No. You're assuming.
Well, I'm assuming because it feels like you're tainted because you're not taking the scenario that I'm suggesting seriously.
For starters, I wouldn't have even watched it. If you had put it on, I would have turned it off because the minute I start seeing conspiracy theory and military cover-up, I turn off the channel. Okay? Especially while serving, because there's certain levels of focus that you have to have. All right? I'm not saying turn a blind eye, but I do also understand that there's missions I have to accomplish, and there's certain things I can't let into my focus. All right?
Okay. And I understand that aspect.
And I hate these. They prey on your fear. Every time, if it's
what fear?
It's all the conspiracy shit. I don't like conspiracy shit.
But there are conspiracies, DT.
I do.
There are.
I understand that.
All over the place. Like
I also understand that. But I've also had to deal with people giving me the 9/11 conspiracy theories.
Sure. I get
or
it.
Shit.
But you got are you not able to separate that? And I'm not asking that in a diminutive way. Trust me. You've been through everything, okay? You've been through it all. So
then what you're failing to grasp is how you have to separate things.
Sure.
In order to be able to do what you have to do. And I can't.
So your methodology is to do what you're describing at this point. And
yes.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm
this
just trying to clarify.
This is how my brain has to function.
Okay. Good. Cool.
Okay. The minute I go see for starters, the little, this was, all the cover-up stuff, right? Some of it I just couldn't focus on. All right, because there were things I knew I had to do to get myself ready to do the jobs I needed to do. All right, deployments especially. All right,
but
go in.
What does that mean?
Oh, it's a military.
With what you saw referenced in the movie. I'm gonna say movie. It's just a movie. It's not a docu.
Well, for starters, everything is, well, the Navy's doing shady shit. Oh, the Navy's hiding stuff. Okay.
Sure. And Hollywood loves to pin the military as a bad guy.
They do. And I'm not saying that at times we have not done shady shit. I am
CIA
an apologist.
More, trust me.
Yes, they have. And green suiters are not a huge fan of that side of the house of the intelligence community. Just saying. But not total blanket, but there's a lot of like CIA packets that drop in for our special operations folks who go in to do missions. They work very closely together, but there's still a lot of distrust, especially from those of us in the more conventional forces who realize that a lot of things are cleaning up messes. So for me, when they start painting broad brushes about military cover-ups and whatnot, and I'm not trying to hide, and I'm not trying to turn a blind eye. It's just what I choose to let into my life.
Because you've dealt with everything.
Because I've had to deal with hard things, and certain things pull your focus.
Yes, I agree. That's what I'm trying to point that out. Like,
one of
the
these
normal
things
civilian does not understand what you've had to endure. And you have to selectively focus.
I started watching this, and they're going into military cover-ups and sonar weapons.
But there are. There are.
I do, across the board. But part of that is just I can't deal with this right now.
I get it, and I get it. Okay, so that's your ability to focus and whatnot. I want to. Can I get into the lost opportunity about this situation?
There was definitely a big lost opportunity in this. Yes.
I feel like that this docufiction could have been a very cool miniseries as a fictional miniseries.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been fascinating as
it would have been fun to see this Noah team in the first few episodes, like try to run across their investigation, like, oh, there's something else out there. And actually, we kind of saw it with the TV show and from NBC in 2005 called Surface. Do you remember that? You were deployed in Iraq, I think, at the time.
2005?
Yeah.
I was in the field most of 2005 preparing to deploy, so yeah.
Yeah. But there was a TV show called Surface where a bunch of aliens landed and they were aquatic mostly. But they started coming up onto the surface of the beaches and things, or
wasn't there also like a movie or something called The Swarm, or something from the stirs up all the animals of the deep recently?
I think there was like a mini series or something on CBS. I didn't watch it, but
and let's not forget, wasn't there also there was a TV show called, wasn't it Sirens or something about mermaids? You know, they're all like Canadian mermaids or something like that.
Yeah, they're all Canadian when you do a show like that. Yeah. But I think like the concept of this docufiction would have been a fun 20-episode season. Like you don't even have to show the evolution of it.
You cut
like,
that out, it turns it into a 2 or 3 part, series on Sci-Fi, and there you go. You've got.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you could show the evolution in an episode, like in a 10-minute or a 5-minute like narration or something. And then you
put it on the
CW,
and then you do flashbacks through it every season, like all those.
I get
I'm
it.
telling
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Trust me. You're interrupting me though.
Now you know how I feel.
I know I interrupt you a lot. I go back and I listen, and I'm trying to stop that. I've let you talk a lot tonight. Trust me. I'm just saying, like, we would be able to see like a 5-minute narration of the evolution of these people after the Noah team is able to find the recovered body. And then the mission of the Noah team is to try to say, hey, how can we get this out of this body out of this naval institution? Or whatnot. And there's a bunch of legal battles that are JAG officiated, not even like, Article 3, I'm talking out of ignorance. You know what I mean, though?
Yes. Go ahead.
Is it ignorance to say JAG?
Just keep it. No, it's not. You just, that would something like this would require a congressional inquiry.
And there would be, like, through a select intelligence committee or something, and then they would know, but and that's fine. So, and then in the end, like the Noah team is able to try to procure. They lose, and then they have to just break in and have a person on the inside who they met through the course of the season that gets them in. Gets them to be able to get the merman out, and then they release it, and then they run off into the sunset.
Yes, the merman.
I think that would have been a fun story. I think it would have been a fun. All the elements in this docufiction are there for a really good TV season, not a multi-season spanning show, but
even
a good
two-part
long
miniseries
15-episode season.
You could put a decent thing together with two-hour movies in a 2-part miniseries, a la Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
There was enough if you just trimmed out, the long chunks of evolution and beef up spots and cut out the documentary style stuff, and
You're
just
not wrong.
follow what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Like if you just cut out all the horseshit, fake scientist crap, and just showed, you could call it a theory, right? The theory of the aquatic ape, or and then you watch like a divergent, like could humanity have had an offshoot?
If it is a work of fiction, you can say anything is a freaking
Well,
theory
you
at
could
that point.
clearly do that, but you could even take just the flashback science part of it, right? And kind of walk through that evolutionary chain.
Yeah, definitely.
As a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Or you could use that as the basis of a sci-fi fantasy show. You have, you could follow like, the big intro, at this point in human history, humanity broke into two parts. One stayed on the land, one evolved to live in the water, and then you have
Jesus, I'm
crosses
sorry.
over. You have, all the sightings of mermaids throughout history and whatnot.
In Ireland.
Ireland, Caribbean. Most people are pretty much come to the conclusion that the theories of mermaids in the Caribbean have come from the manatees. But just in general, you could have turned this into a neat sci-fi show. You could spin it up. They've done certain things like this before. Did you ever see the Aquaman pilot from like 2006?
No, I didn't. And there was also a mermaid horror mystery called, God, it was She Creature. From 2001. Yeah, hold on, let me pull that up real fast. She Creature. It was on Showtime. It was a really well done film. I actually liked it.
Let's not forget.
Lots of boobs in it.
Let's not forget Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
Yeah, which is the most expensive film on record, by the way. So this is this is not that one. Oh, Creature Films. So this is the trailer. Do you want me to play it? That's the mermaid, but that's her reflection as a real mermaid.
Is this a horror movie?
Kind of.
Yeah, I'm okay.
There's no gore in it or anything.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone.
It's like
Columbia TriStar Home Entertainment, Lou Arcot, Colleen Camp, and Stan Winston, Academy Award-winning special effects artists Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, and Aliens, present Creature Features. All over the world, there are tales of mysterious sea creatures possessing magical powers with unparalleled beauty. They are just stories. Everyone knows they aren't real.
Show's over.
Can we offer you a ride home, sir?
I came to your show tonight because I wanted to warn you of the danger.
Everyone, until now.
She has powers the others don't.
She murdered my wife.
A real-life bleeding mermaid.
You'd love to show her as a freak.
This is our ticket, Lily.
All hands prepare to get underway!
A bad feeling about this.
That beast doesn't belong here.
You caught me by surprise.
I hope I didn't scare you.
Lily and her husband Angus are about to discover
He's dead. She can read my thoughts, and she did this for me.
that what lies behind the legend
What is it you want from me?
is the most unthinkable truth.
It's not the mermaid. It's something else.
Rufus Sewell, Carla Gugino, Gil Bellows. She Creature.
Wow, that is campy.
God.
The advertisement is campy,
That is schlock.
The movie actually was pretty compelling. I found it pretty well done for the budget that it had and the sophistication of the people that were doing it. I got to be honest with you. I found it interesting. But that being said, yeah, that's one interpret. By the way, the fins on that mermaid, they were actually feet, but bound together at the ankles, and they had the fins were separated with the toes and whatnot.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So anyway, I thought it'd be fun to explore this idea. We've thoroughly debunked the idea that the aquatic ape theory is possible. We've eviscerated the idea that this kind of program is responsible to the American public. It's not, in every way, shape, and form. I think we can agree.
It's a steaming pile of doo-doo.
So, I mean, I think we covered as much as we can. But I do think that there are elements that should be recognized that could be told for a good feature.
Yeah. If they had just come out and said, hey, this is crap, then, people would be a lot less angry about it.
What does it always come back to? What does it always come back to, DT? The currency of our time is authenticity.
Well, this wasn't our time.
But it is now. And actually, it was then. It just wasn't as widely accepted back then. But the currency of our time...
unadulterated horse shit.
True. And it destroyed a network completely. And they are dying on the vine now as they own Warner Brothers, and they might have to sell Warner Brothers to make a coin here and there, depending on how Superman led. What's the Superman movie name now? The one that's coming out in July.
Superman.
Well, depending
Legacy.
on how that Legacy, yeah. Depending on how Superman Legacy does, it'll make or break Warner Brothers, and if Discovery has to sell that shit off now. So, all started back in 2011. And on that note, everybody, I'm just saying, I try to look on the bright side of everything, on a negative aspect. Coins were flipped this time. You guys keep dreaming. We'll keep working. I am P.S. McKay. We're those sci-fi guys. You guys, take care.
I'm DT Catman, and I won't allow this horse shit on my high ground.
Those Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by Alpha Site Productions, produced by DT Cabman and P.S. McKay. Music courtesy of Silverman Sound Studios. Fiddle DD is under Creative Commons by 4.0 license. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow P.S. McKay on X at PS McKay, or go to thosesci-fi-guys.com for past episode information. You can now find us on Spotify, so head on over there for our latest episodes. But don't worry, we are still on Apple. We're also live on Rumble. You can find us on YouTube with live video podcasts and Facebook. Be sure to leave a like and a comment and let us know how we're doing. DT, I honestly think I need to shorten this outro. I really do. Later.